The human ship Harmony moved slowly through space toward the big blue planet ahead. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge and watched the alien world get bigger and bigger through the front window. He had waited 3 years for this moment. Today humans would meet the Zephyrians for the first time. "Sir, we're getting a message from the planet," said his young officer, Kate Wilson. She pushed some buttons on her control panel. "They want us to land at their main city." Jake nodded. "Tell them we're coming down now." He turned to look at his small team. There were only 4 humans on this important trip. Besides Kate, there was Danny Rodriguez, the ship's cook, Lisa Park, who knew everything about plants, and Ben Carter, who had studied alien cultures for 10 years. "Everyone ready?" Jake asked. Danny wiped his hands on his white chef coat. "I brought some of our best food to share with them," he said. "Pizza, chocolate, coffee beans, things that show what Earth cooking is like." Lisa held up a small box. "I have seeds from our best crops. Corn, wheat, tomatoes. Maybe they'll want to trade plants with us." Ben looked nervous. "Remember, we don't know much about their customs yet. We need to be very careful not to make them angry." The ship landed with a soft bump. Through the windows, they could see hundreds of tall, thin aliens waiting for them. The Zephyrians had smooth blue skin that seemed to glow in the sunlight. They wore long robes of silver and gold. At the front of the group stood the tallest one of all, wearing a crown made of some kind of crystal. "That must be King Vorthak," Ben said quietly. The humans walked down the ramp from their ship. The alien king stepped forward. When he spoke, a small device on his belt changed his words into English. "Welcome to Zephyr Prime," King Vorthak said. His voice was deep and musical. "I am King Vorthak. We are happy to meet the people of Earth." Jake bowed like Ben had taught him. "Thank you, Your Majesty. I'm Captain Jake Morrison. We're honored to be here." The king smiled, but Jake noticed it didn't reach his eyes. Something was wrong. The other aliens looked worried too. Many of them kept looking at a young female alien who stood beside the king. "This is my daughter, Princess Zelia," the king said. Jake looked at the princess and tried not to show his shock. While all the other Zephyrians glowed with healthy blue light, the princess looked sick. Her skin was pale gray instead of bright blue. She could barely stand up straight. 2 other aliens had to help hold her up. "Princess," Jake said with another bow, "it's an honor to meet you." Princess Zelia tried to smile, but Jake could see she was in pain. "Welcome to our world," she said slowly. Each word seemed hard for her to say. King Vorthak's face became very serious. "Come, we have prepared a feast for you. We have much to discuss." The humans followed the aliens through the beautiful city. The buildings were made of the same crystal as the king's crown. They sparkled in the sunlight like diamonds. But Jake noticed that many of the Zephyrians they passed looked thin and worried. The royal palace was huge. The dining hall could hold 1,000 people. Long tables were covered with dishes of alien food. The smell was strange, not bad but very different from anything on Earth. King Vorthak sat at the head table with Princess Zelia on his right side. The human sat on his left. Jake watched as servants brought plate after plate of food. It looked beautiful: purple fruits, golden vegetables, silver grain that looked like rice. But Princess Zelia didn't eat anything. She just moved the food around on her plate with a fork-like tool. "Please eat," King Vorthak said to the humans. "This is our traditional welcome feast." Danny tried a small bite of the purple fruit. His eyes went wide. "This is incredible," he said. "The flavor is amazing. Sweet and sour at the same time, but with something else I can't name." Lisa tasted the golden vegetables. "These are delicious. What do you call them?" "They are called Vorth," the king said. But his voice was sad. "They used to grow all over our planet. Now we have very little left." Jake was starting to understand. "Your Majesty, is your planet having food problems?" King Vorthak was quiet for a long time. Finally, he spoke. "For many years our world has been getting sick. The soil is poisoned. The water is dirty. Most of our food plants are dying or becoming dangerous to eat. Princess Zilia lifted her head with great effort. The food that made our people strong for thousands of years now makes us weak, she said. But I am the future queen. I must eat only the traditional foods of my people. It is a matter of honor. Danny understood immediately. You're poisoning yourself to follow tradition. It is my duty, the princess said firmly, even though she looked like she might fall over. Ben leaned forward. Your Majesty, why did you invite us here? King Vorthak looked around the room at his people. Many of them were too thin. All of them looked worried and scared. Our greatest scientists have tried everything, the king said. Nothing works. We heard that humans are good at solving problems that seem impossible. We need help, but... Oh, stop talking and look down. But you can't ask directly, Jake said, understanding. It would hurt your pride as a powerful species. The king nodded slowly. Jake looked at his team. Danny was staring at Princess Zelia with the same look he got when he saw someone who needed a good meal. Lisa was already thinking about the sick, soil and poisoned plants. Ben was figuring out the cultural problems they would face. What if we offered to help? Jake said carefully. Not because you asked, but because we want to learn about your people. We could share our knowledge about food and farming. You could teach us about your culture. Princess Zilia's gray skin seemed to get a tiny bit brighter. You would do this? That's what friends do, Danny said simply. He stood up and bowed to the princess. Your Majesty, I'm just a cook, but I've never met a food problem I couldn't solve. If you'll let me try, I'd like to find a way to feed your people without hurting them. For the first time since they arrived, King Vorthak smiled, a real smile. You would help us save our daughter? We'd help you save your whole planet, Jake said. As the feast continued, Jake realized their mission had changed completely. They hadn't come here just to make friends with aliens. They had come to save a dying world. And somehow, the answer might be in Danny's kitchen skills, Lisa's plant knowledge, and their very human ability to find new solutions to old problems. The real work was about to begin. The next morning, Princess Zelia called the humans to her private garden. She was sitting on a stone bench looking even weaker than the day before. Her skin had turned an even paler shade of gray. 2 royal doctors stood nearby, watching her, with worried faces. I have thought about your offer all night, the princess said to Danny. Her voice was so quiet he had to lean closer to hear her. Many species have come to our world. All of them promised to help us, all of them failed. Jake stepped forward. Princess, we understand if you don't trust us yet. She held up her thin hand to stop him. No, Captain. I want to give you a chance. But first, you must prove that humans are different from all the others. Ben felt nervous. What kind of proof do you need? Princess Zelia tried to stand up. The doctors moved to help her, but she waved them away. I am the heir to the throne of the Zephyrian Empire. My people have ruled this part of space for 1,000 years. If I die, our royal line ends forever. She walked slowly to a table covered with different types of alien food. Some glowed with soft light. Others were dark and looked almost burnt. A few seemed to be moving slightly like they were still alive. These are the sacred foods of my people, she said. For centuries, the future rulers ate only these dishes. They made us strong and wise. They connected us to our ancestors and our gods. Danny looked at the food carefully. Even from far away, he could smell that something was wrong. The food smelled sour and bitter. Some pieces had dark spots that looked like mold. Now these same foods are killing me, the princess continued. But I cannot eat anything else. It would be like saying our ancestors were wrong. It would mean I'm not worthy to be queen. Lisa stepped closer to examine the food. Princess, may I ask what happened to change the food? One of the royal doctors answered. Our planet's soil has been damaged by mining and factories. Chemicals have gotten into the ground and water. The plants absorb these poisons. Even our animals are sick from eating the poisoned plants. We've tried to clean the soil, the other doctor added. We've tried to grow the plants in clean water. Nothing works. The traditional foods are too dangerous to eat. But we don't know. What else our people can eat safely? Princess Zelia sat back down heavily. So here is your challenge, humans. Find a way to feed my people without destroying our culture. Find foods that will keep us strong without breaking our traditions. Do this and we will know that Earth truly has something valuable to offer us. She pointed at the poisoned food on the table. You have 7 days. If you cannot solve this problem, then you must leave our world and never return. We cannot waste more time on false hopes. Jake felt the weight of her words. 7 days to save an entire species and their princess. He looked at his team. Danny was already walking toward the food table. Lisa had pulled out a small device to test the soil. Ben was asking the doctors questions about Zephyrian culture. We accept your challenge, Jake said. After the princess left, the 4 humans gathered in their guest rooms to make a plan. This is bigger than I thought, Danny said. He had spent an hour examining the poisoned food. These aren't just sick plants, the whole food system is broken. It's like trying to cook with ingredients that are already rotten. Lisa looked at her test results. The soil readings are terrible. Heavy metals, chemical waste, acid levels that would kill most earth plants, but... She paused and looked at her data again. There might be hope. Some of these chemical markers look familiar. What do you mean? Ben asked. Earth had similar problems in some places, Lisa explained. Areas where mining or factories poisoned the land. We learned how to clean the soil and find plants that could grow in bad conditions. Maybe those techniques could work here too. Ben shook his head. Even if we can grow safe food, there's still the cultural problem. The princess said, she can only eat traditional foods. If we give her earth food, it might save her life, but it would destroy her honor. In Zephyrian culture, a ruler without honor is worse than no ruler at all. Danny sat quietly for a moment, thinking. Then his face lit up. What if we don't give her earth food? What if we make Zephyrian food safe again? How? Jake asked. Lisa, you said Earth had similar problems. How did we fix our poisoned food? Lisa thought about it. We used different techniques. Sometimes we cooked food in special ways to remove toxins. Sometimes we added other ingredients that neutralized the poison. And sometimes we used fermentation, letting good bacteria break down the bad chemicals. Danny started pacing around the room, excited. That's it. We don't change what they eat. We change how they prepare it. We use human cooking techniques on their traditional ingredients. Ben looked hopeful for the first time. That could work, culturally. If we can show that we're not replacing their traditions, just helping them do their traditions safely, Jake nodded. It's worth a try. What do you need? Danny grabbed his chef's bag. I need to get into their royal kitchen. I need to see how they normally prepare their food. And I need samples of everything. The safe ingredients, the poisoned ones, everything. Lisa picked up her testing equipment. I'll work on the soil and water problems. Maybe I can find which of our earth plants might grow here safely. Plants that could supplement their diet without replacing it. Ben pulled out his tablet computer. I'll study their food customs more carefully. I need to understand exactly which traditions are most important and which ones might be flexible. Over the next 3 days, they worked harder than they had ever worked before. Danny spent every waking hour in the royal kitchen, learning to prepare traditional Zephyrian dishes. He discovered that their cooking methods were very simple, mostly raw foods or foods cooked in plain water. No wonder the toxins aren't being removed, he told Lisa. On Earth, we learned that cooking at high heat, adding acids like vinegar or fermenting food can break down many poisons. But they've never tried these techniques. Lisa made an exciting discovery in the palace gardens. Jake, look at this, she called him over to a patch of sick-looking plants. These aren't completely dead. Some of them are actually trying to clean themselves. Their roots are filtering out some of the toxins. She showed him her test results. If we help this natural process along, add some earth bacteria that eat heavy metals, change the soil pH, introduce some of our hardy plants to help clean the ground, we might be able to save their traditional crops. Ben found something important too. He spent hours talking to the palace historians and learned that Zephyrian food traditions had changed many times over the centuries. Their ancient cooking methods are only about 300 years old, he told the group. Before that, they used fermentation and heat cooking, just like humans do. They changed to raw foods because they thought it was purer and more spiritual. On the fourth day, Danny made his first test meal. He took traditional Zephyrian ingredients, but he prepared them using old human techniques. He fermented some of the grains like sourdough bread. He cooked the vegetables at high heat with acids to neutralize toxins. He even made a kind of alien, cheese using fermentation to break down the dangerous chemicals in their milk. The smell coming from the kitchen was amazing. Familiar human cooking smells mixed with the exotic spices of Zephyr Prime. "I think this might work," Danny said, tasting his creation carefully. "The flavors are still completely Zephyrian, but the food is safe to eat." But they still had the biggest challenge ahead of them. They had to convince Princess Zilia to try their modified version of her sacred foods. If she refused, or if the food made her sicker instead of better, their mission would be over. Jake looked at his team. They were all tired but hopeful. "Tomorrow we present our solution to the princess. Are we ready?" Danny packed his carefully prepared dishes. Lisa gathered her soil samples and plant data. Ben reviewed his cultural research one more time. "We're as ready as we'll ever be," Jake said. "Let's hope it's enough to save her life." On the fifth morning, Princess Zelia could barely get out of bed. Her skin had turned almost white, and she had to lean on two servants just to walk to her chair. King Vorthak looked at his dying daughter with tears in his eyes. "The human time is almost up," one of the royal advisors whispered to another. "Perhaps we should prepare for the worst." But Danny wasn't giving up. He had worked all night in the royal kitchen, making his final version of the modified Zephyrian feast. He had found the perfect balance, traditional ingredients prepared, with human techniques that removed the poison while keeping all the original flavors. Jake and his team entered the princess's dining room, carrying covered dishes that smelled incredible. Even the sick princess lifted her head slightly when the aroma reached her. "Your Majesty," Jake said to King Vorthak, "we believe we have found a solution. But first, let us explain what we learned about your food." Ben stepped forward with his research. "We discovered that your people used to cook their food differently. Your ancestors used fermentation, heat, and other methods that made food safer. These aren't human techniques. They're old Zephyrian techniques that were forgotten." Lisa showed her soil samples. "Your land isn't completely ruined. With some help, your traditional plants can grow safely again. We can clean the soil using methods we developed on Earth, but the plants themselves will be purely Zephyrian." Danny uncovered his dishes. The food looked exactly like traditional Zephyrian cuisine, but it smelled richer and more complex. "Princess, this is your sacred food, prepared the way your great-great-grandparents used to make it. Nothing has changed except the cooking methods." Princess Zelia stared at the food. "It looks like our traditional dishes, but it smells different. Because it's not full of poison anymore," Danny said gently. "The fermentation process removes the toxins. The high-heat cooking breaks down the dangerous chemicals. Your ancestors knew these techniques would keep them healthy." King Vorthak leaned forward. "Are you certain this is safe?" Lisa nodded. "I've tested everything. The toxic levels are now below what we consider safe for humans. For Zephyrians, who process food differently, it should be even safer." But Princess Zelia still hesitated. "If I eat this and it makes me sicker, I will die. If I eat this and it helps me, but it's not truly traditional food, then I'm not worthy to rule my people." Ben had expected this. "Your Majesty, we found records in your palace library. Your people used these exact cooking methods until 300 years ago. A king named Zorthak decided that raw food was more pure and spiritual. But before him, all your rulers ate fermented and cooked foods." The princess looked surprised. "King Zorthak the Wise? He changed our food traditions?" "Yes, and now we're asking you to change them back," Ben said. "Not to human ways, but to older Zephyrian ways." Danny picked up a small piece of the prepared food with a clean utensil. "Princess, I've been cooking for 20 years. I've never served food that I wasn't sure was safe. I promise you, this will not harm you." Princess Zelia looked at her father. King Vorthak's face showed all his worry and love for his daughter. The choice is yours, my child. But remember, a dead princess cannot serve her people at all. Very slowly, Princess Zilia reached for the food. Her hand shook as she lifted it to her mouth. Everyone in the room held their breath. She chewed carefully, tasting every flavor. Her eyes grew wide. "This tastes like the foods in the old songs," she whispered. "The ones that told stories about feasts in the ancient times. I always thought those were just fantasies." She swallowed and waited. 1 minute passed, then 2, then 5. "How do you feel?" the royal doctor asked. Princess Zilia sat up straighter. For the first time in months, she didn't need help to stay upright. I feel like I could eat more." Danny smiled and offered her another piece, then another. Slowly, carefully, the princess ate her first full meal in weeks. As she ate, something amazing happened. The gray color in her skin began to fade. A tiny bit of blue glow started to return. It was faint, but everyone could see it. "By the ancient gods," King Vorthak breathed. "She's getting better." The princess finished the entire meal. Then she stood up without help for the first time in days. "I want to see the kitchen where you made this food." Danny led her to the royal kitchen, where he had set up his fermentation pots and cooking equipment. The princess examined everything carefully. "Show me how you did this," she demanded. Danny spent the next 2 hours teaching Princess Zilia how to prepare her own traditional foods using the old methods. She was a quick learner, and soon was fermenting grains and cooking vegetables at proper temperatures. "This is still our food," she said with growing excitement. "Our ingredients, our recipes just prepared the way our ancestors intended." Lisa showed the princess her soil treatment plans. "We can clean your farmland too. It will take time, but we can bring back the healthy crops your people remember from the old stories." Princess Zilia was getting stronger by the hour. The blue glow in her skin was becoming brighter. "Father," she called to King Vorthak, "we must tell the people immediately. The humans have given us back our heritage." But not everyone was happy about the news. Some of the royal advisors gathered in the corner, whispering angrily. "This is wrong," one of them said loudly. "We are accepting help from aliens. This makes us look weak." "Weak?" Princess Zilia turned to face them, standing tall and glowing, brighter than she had in months. "Learning from others makes us strong. Adapting to survive makes us wise. Refusing help when our people are dying makes us foolish." Another advisor stepped forward. "But Princess, what will other species think? They will say the mighty Zephyrians needed humans to teach them how to feed themselves." Jake had been quiet, but now he spoke up. "They'll say the Zephyrians were smart enough to find a solution when they needed one. They'll say you were strong enough to change when change was necessary." King Vorthak looked at his daughter, who was more alive and healthy than she had been in months. Then he looked at his advisors, who cared more about pride than survival. "The decision is made," he announced. "We will learn these techniques. We will clean our soil. We will feed our people." He turned to Jake. "And we will do it in partnership with Earth." The princess walked over to Danny and bowed deeply. "Chef Rodriguez, you have saved my life and my people's future. How can we ever repay you?" Danny smiled. "Teach me more about your spices and ingredients. I want to learn as much from you as you've learned from me." Lisa was already making plans with the royal scientists to start soil rehabilitation projects. Ben was working with the historians to document the old cooking traditions they had rediscovered. As the day ended, Jake stood with his team watching Princess Zilia eat her second full meal. Her skin was now glowing with healthy blue light, almost as bright as her father's. "We did it," Lisa said quietly. "We actually saved her." "We saved more than her," Ben added. "We saved their whole culture." Danny was still teaching Zephyrian cooks how to ferment grain properly. "This is just the beginning," he said. "Wait until they try chocolate." Jake laughed. "One Earth food at a time, Danny. One at a time." But he knew Danny was right. This was just the beginning of something much bigger. They had proven that humans and Zephyrians could work together. They had shown that sharing knowledge made both species stronger. The real adventure was about to start. 3 weeks after Princess Zelia's first safe meal, news of her recovery had spread across the entire planet. The royal palace was busier than it had been in years. Zephyrian nobles, scientists, and farmers came from every corner of their world to see the miracle for themselves. Princess Zelia now glowed with the bright blue light of perfect health. She had gained weight and strength. Most importantly, she was full of energy and new ideas for helping her people. "Father, we must start teaching these methods in every city," she said during the morning council meeting. "Our people are still eating poisoned food because they don't know there's a better way." King Vorthak nodded. "I have already sent messages to all our provincial governors, but—" He looked worried. "Not everyone is happy about these changes." Jake and his team were also at the council meeting. They had been staying as honored guests while they helped set up the new food programs. Danny had been working with royal cooks to modify thousands of traditional recipes. Lisa had started soil cleaning projects in 12 different regions. Ben had been teaching Zephyrian historians about their own forgotten food traditions. "What kind of resistance are you seeing?" Jake asked. A messenger entered the room and bowed to the king. "Your Majesty, Lord Vex from the Northern Territories has arrived. He demands an audience." King Vorthak sighed. "Send him in." Lord Vex was an old Zephyrian noble with skin that barely glowed. He wore traditional robes and carried an ancient staff of office. When he entered the room, he didn't bow to the king. Instead, he stared at the humans with obvious dislike. "King Vorthak," Lord Vex said in a cold voice, "I come here representing dozens of noble families. We are deeply concerned about these changes you have made." "What concerns you, old friend?" the king asked politely. Lord Vex pointed at Danny, who was quietly taking notes about Zephyrian spices. "You have allowed aliens to change our most sacred traditions. You have let them into our royal kitchen. You have even let your daughter eat their alien cooking methods." Princess Zelia stood up, her healthy glow brightening with anger. "Lord Vex, these alien cooking methods saved my life, and they're not alien at all. They're ancient Zephyrian methods that we had forgotten." "Lies," Lord Vex snapped. "You have been corrupted by these humans. You eat their food and now you think like them. This is exactly what we feared would happen." Ben stepped forward carefully. "Lord Vex, we have historical records from your own palace library. These cooking techniques were used by your people for thousands of years." "I don't care what your human books say," Lord Vex replied. "For the last 300 years, pure food has been the way of our people, raw and natural as the gods intended." Danny couldn't stay quiet anymore. "Pure food that's killing everyone? Natural food full of poison? How is that better?" Lord Vex turned, red with anger. "Because it's our way. Because accepting help from inferior species makes us weak. Because once we start eating like humans, soon we'll be thinking like humans, acting like humans, becoming like humans." The room went very quiet. Jake could see that Lord Vex had touched on the real fear, that learning from humans somehow made the Zephyrians less special. Princess Zelia walked over to stand directly in front of Lord Vex. Even though he was much older, she was now taller and stronger than him. "Lord Vex," she said in a clear, strong voice, "look at me. Do I look like a human to you?" He stared at her healthy blue glow, her alien features, her obviously Zephyrian appearance. "No, but do I think like a human?" she continued. "Do I worship human gods? Do I speak human language as my first tongue? Do I love Zephyrian culture any less than I did before?" "You eat human food," he accused. "I eat Zephyrian food, prepared the way my great-great-grandmother prepared it," she corrected him. "The humans didn't teach me to eat their food. They taught me to eat my own food safely." King Vorthak stood up beside his daughter. "Lord Vex, 3 months ago my daughter was dying. Today she is the strongest she has ever been. How is this a bad thing? Because we should have found the solution ourselves," Lord Vex shouted. "We are the great Zephyrian Empire. We have conquered stars. We should not need help from a primitive species that only just learned to travel between planets." Lisa had been listening quietly, but now she spoke up. Lord Vex, can I ask you something? When your ancestors first learned to make fire, did they refuse to share it with other tribes because they wanted to discover it on their own? That's different, he said. How? Lisa asked. When your people first learned to grow food instead of just hunting, did they refuse to trade seeds with other groups? That's not the same thing at all. Ben joined the conversation. Actually, it is exactly the same thing. Every species learns from others. That's how intelligence works. That's how civilizations grow. Princess Xylia nodded. Lord Vex, the humans didn't make us weak by helping us. They made us stronger by teaching us things we had forgotten. And now we can teach them things they don't know. She turned to Danny. Show him the spice blend you learned about yesterday. Danny pulled out a small container filled with silver powder. This is Threx root, ground with Vorth seeds and processed with a technique the princess taught me. It creates flavors I never imagined possible. No human has ever tasted anything like this. He handed the container to Lord Vex. The exchange goes both ways. We learn from each other. Lord Vex smelled the spice blend, and despite his anger, Jake could see his eyes light up with interest. This does smell remarkable, he admitted. Because it's the best of both worlds, Princess Xylia explained. Human preservation techniques keeping our traditional spices fresh and potent. Two species working together to create something neither could make alone. But Lord Vex shook his head and handed back the spices. It doesn't matter how good it smells. The principle is wrong. We are Zephyrians. We should solve Zephyrian problems in Zephyrian ways. King Vorthak's patience was running out. And if we can't, if our ways fail, do we die proudly, or do we live wisely? We die as Zephyrians, rather than live as something less than Zephyrians, Lord Vex declared. Princess Xylia stared at him in amazement. You would rather see me die than see me learn from our friends? Yes, Lord Vex said simply. Your death as a true Zephyrian would be better than your life as a corrupted half-human. The room exploded in angry voices. Several Zephyrian officials shouted at Lord Vex. Others seemed to agree with him. Jake realized that this wasn't just about food anymore. This was about the future direction of the entire Zephyrian civilization. Princess Xylia held up her hand for silence. When the room was quiet, she spoke in a voice that was both gentle and absolutely firm. Lord Vex, I understand your fears. I was afraid too when I first tried the modified food. I thought it might make me less Zephyrian, but I learned something important. She gestured to the humans, then to the Zephyrian officials, then to the art and decorations around the room. Being Zephyrian isn't about eating specific food or following specific rules. Being Zephyrian is about our values, our love for our families, our dedication to justice and honor, our curiosity about the universe, our desire to build something good for future generations. She walked over to a window that looked out over the city. The humans didn't change any of those things in me. If anything, they made them stronger. Now I can serve my people better, because I'm healthy. Now I can learn more about the universe because I have friends from another world. Now I can build a better future because I have new tools to work with. She turned back to Lord Vex. You say I'm corrupted, but I say I'm enhanced. Still completely Zephyrian, but now also connected to the wider universe. Lord Vex stood silently for a long moment. Finally, he spoke. Princess, I cannot accept this path. Many of the noble families cannot accept it. If you continue down this road, you may find that you are queen of a divided people. Then that is a choice they must make, she replied sadly. But I will not let my people die to preserve their prejudices. Lord Vex bowed stiffly and left the room. Several other nobles followed him. King Vorthak looked worried. This is not over. Lord Vex has many supporters. This could cause serious problems. Jake put his hand on the king's shoulder. Your Majesty, change is always difficult, but your daughter is right. Sometimes you have to choose between staying the same and staying alive. Princess Xylia smiled at Jake. Don't worry, Captain. We Zephyrians have been dealing with difficult nobles for 1,000 years. And now we have something they don't have. What's that? Danny asked. Her smile grew brighter. We have friends. 6 months later, the central plaza of Zephyr Prime was filled with the most amazing smells in the galaxy. Thousands of cooking stations had been set up for the first festival of renewed life. Zephyrian chefs worked side by side with visiting human cooks, creating dishes that had never existed before. Princess Zilia stood on the royal balcony, watching her people celebrate below. Her blue skin glowed brighter than ever before. She wore a new crown, not the traditional crystal, but a beautiful piece made from materials from both Earth and Zephyr Prime. Hard to believe it's only been 6 months, Jake said, joining her on the balcony. He wore formal clothes decorated with Zephyrian symbols of friendship. It feels like a lifetime, the princess replied. Everything has changed. And everything had changed. The soil cleaning projects that Lisa had started were working beyond anyone's dreams. Traditional Zephyrian crops were growing healthy and strong in dozens of regions. New hybrid plants, combinations of Earth and Zephyrian species, were producing amazing harvests. Danny's cooking school had become the most popular institution on the planet. Young Zephyrians were learning to prepare their traditional food safely, while also experimenting with Earth techniques. Some of their creations were so delicious that they were being shipped to restaurants on Earth. Ben's cultural exchange program had brought hundreds of humans and Zephyrians together. They were learning each other's languages, sharing art and music, and discovering that different species had more in common than anyone had expected. But the greatest change was in the Zephyrian people themselves. They were healthier, happier, and more confident than they had been in decades. The fear that had hung over their planet for years was finally gone. Your Majesty, a young Zephyrian messenger approached the princess. King Vorthak requests your presence in the main hall. The ceremony is ready to begin. Princess Zilia nodded. Tell my father we'll be there in a moment. As the messenger left, she turned to Jake. Before we go down there, I need to ask you something. Are you sure Danny wants to stay here permanently? Earth must need him too. Jake smiled. I asked him the same thing last week. He told me that Earth has thousands of good cooks, but Zephyr Prime only has one human chef who understands both cultures. He says this is where he can do the most good. They walked down to the main hall, where the official ceremony was taking place. The room was packed with representatives from dozens of species. Word of the Human-Zephyrian alliance had spread across the galaxy, and everyone wanted to see what was possible when two civilizations worked together instead of just competing. King Vorthak stood at the front of the room, looking proud and healthy. Beside him stood Danny, Lisa, and Ben, all wearing medals of honor from the Zephyrian Empire. Friends from across the galaxy, King Vorthak began. 6 months ago, my people were dying. Our planet was poisoned, our food was toxic, and our future was dark. Today we celebrate not just our recovery, but our growth into something better than we were before. He gestured to the humans. These 4 people came to our world with nothing but curiosity, kindness, and knowledge. They asked for nothing in return. They simply offered to help, and in helping us, they taught us something important. Princess Zilia stepped forward. They taught us that strength doesn't come from isolation. Wisdom doesn't come from pride. True greatness comes from being willing to learn, to change, and to grow. The crowd applauded, but Princess Zilia wasn't finished. Some of our people opposed these changes. They said that accepting help made us weak. They said that learning from humans made us less Zephyrian. They were wrong. She walked over to stand beside Danny. This human chef didn't make us less Zephyrian. He made us more Zephyrian by helping us rediscover our own forgotten traditions. This human botanist didn't replace our crops with alien plants. She helped us heal our own land so our own plants could thrive again. She nodded to Lisa and Ben. These humans didn't try to change our culture. They helped us understand our culture better than we understood it ourselves. A door at the back of the hall opened, and Lord Vex entered with a group of other noble Zephyrians. Jake tensed, wondering if they had come to cause trouble. But Lord Vex walked to the front of the room and bowed deeply to Princess Zilia. Your Majesty, he said in a loud voice, I come here today to admit that I was wrong. For months I fought against the changes you made. I believed that accepting human help would make us weak. He straightened up and looked around the room. But I have spent these months watching our people recover. I have seen our children grow strong on food that doesn't poison them. I have watched our farmers harvest crops they thought were lost forever. I have seen my own grandson learn to cook traditional dishes using techniques that keep them safe and delicious. His voice grew stronger. Princess Zilia, you were right. Learning from our friends doesn't make us less Zephyrian. It makes us better Zephyrians. The crowd cheered loudly. Princess Zilia smiled and embraced the old noble. Thank you, Lord Vex. Your support means everything to me. King Vorthak raised his hands for attention. Today, we officially establish the first interspecies cultural alliance. Earth and Zephyr Prime will share knowledge, trade goods, and work, together to solve problems that neither could solve alone. He turned to Jake. Captain Morrison, we offer you the position of first human ambassador to the Zephyrian Empire. Jake bowed. Your Majesty, I accept with honor. Danny Rodriguez, the king continued, we offer you the position of Royal Cultural Chef and head of the Interspecies Culinary Institute. Danny grinned. I accept, Your Majesty, and I promise the food will only get better from here. Lisa Park, we offer you the position of Chief Ecological Advisor and head of our Planetary Restoration Project. Lisa stepped forward with tears in her eyes. Thank you, Your Majesty. I can't wait to see what we can grow together. Ben Carter, we offer you the position of Director of Interspecies Cultural Studies. Ben bowed deeply. I'm honored, Your Majesty. There's so much more we can learn from each other. As the official ceremony ended, the real celebration began. The doors opened, and everyone moved out to the plaza, where the Festival of Renewed Life was in full swing. Jake wandered through the crowd, amazed by what he saw. Zephyrian children were teaching human visitors how to play traditional games. Human musicians were performing duets with Zephyrian singers, creating music that had never existed before. At food stations throughout the plaza, people from both species were sharing meals and recipes. He found Danny at a cooking station, teaching a group of young Zephyrians how to make a fusion dish that combined Earth pizza techniques with traditional Zephyrian flatbread. Any regrets about staying? Jake asked him. Danny looked around at his eager students, then at the crowd of happy, healthy Zephyrians enjoying the festival. Are you kidding? This is the best job in the galaxy. I'm creating entirely new types of food every day, and I'm helping save a civilization while I do it. Lisa was nearby, showing a group of Zephyrian farmers some earth plants that were growing in Zephyrian soil. The hybrid vegetables were bigger and more colorful than anything from either planet. Jake, she called out excitedly, look at these. Tomatoes. The Zephyrian soil minerals have made them sweet in a completely new way. We're going to revolutionize agriculture on both our worlds. Ben was sitting at a table with several Zephyrian historians, comparing stories and legends from both cultures. They had discovered that humans and Zephyrians had remarkably similar myths about heroes who brought fire to their people. As the day turned to evening, Princess Zilia took the stage for the final speech of the festival. The entire plaza went quiet to listen to her. 6 months ago I was dying, she began. Not just me, but our entire civilization. We were so proud, so sure that we could solve all our problems alone that we almost died rather than ask for help. She gestured to the crowd, where humans and Zephyrians were sitting together, sharing food and stories. Today, I see the future of the galaxy. Not species competing with each other, but species working together. Not civilizations trying to prove they're superior, but civilizations learning from each other's strengths. Her voice grew stronger and more excited. This is just the beginning. There are thousands of species out there, each with their own knowledge, their own skills, their own gifts. Imagine what we could accomplish if we all worked together instead of fighting or ignoring each other. The crowd cheered loudly. People began chanting "Alliance, Alliance" in both human and Zephyrian languages. Princess Zilia smiled and held up her hands for quiet one last time. So I declare this day not just the festival of renewed life for Zephyr Prime, but the beginning of A new age for the entire galaxy. An age where we judge each other not by how different we are, but by how much we can learn from each other. An age where we grow stronger together instead of weaker apart. As the festival continued into the night with music, dancing, and the sharing of countless new dishes, Jake stood with his team and their new Zephyrian friends looking up at the stars. "You know what this means, don't you?" he said to the others. "What?" Danny asked, taking a break from teaching Zephyrian children how to make ice cream. "This is just planet number 1, Jake said with a grin. There are thousands of other worlds out there, and now we know that the best diplomacy happens around the dinner table,